You know, John, they say timing in life, timing is everything.
Yeah.
I would know because I've had probably the worst timing of any human that's ever been born. That's for sure.
You think so?
I've had some bad timing.
Careful.
Yeah, I don't like talking like that. But, you know, whatever.
Right.
Okay. Are we ready for a countdown?
We are. Remember, every time you ask that, I always think of Ed Norton when he goes, Q.
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 Oh gosh. Okay. 5, 4. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Wait. Hold on a second. Wait. I'm leaving the camera. Wait. This is bothering me. All right.
There we go.
Everything is fine. All right. Everything's got to be just right.
Yep.
You know. And we have a producer and a director and a lighting, and they're all holding things here, and yet somebody couldn't do something like turn something around for us.
Before you do the countdown, right? For the viewers, I've said this before and I'll say it again. This is completely grassroots, homegrown. This is, this is mountain moonshine, so to speak. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. You know, if we need the clock, we got to get up and turn the clock because the clock turned the other way. You know, if we forgot to turn off the lights, we turn off the lights. We turn on the lights. We do this, we do that. We plug in the cardinal spirit guide. Guess what? It's on us. This is all homegrown. So please consider that. So you can watch some snazzy, slick-ass podcast with an illuminated desk and big, huge TV screens behind the talking heads. Beware ye, because then you're kind of creeping back to mainstream network media. It's not what we are here. We got Major Springfield Bones, we got a Jersey Boardwalk Wheel, and we've got all sorts of things that mean something to us here on the Jersey Alchemist. We got spirit guides. We have a representation, a facsimile of Archangel Michael, the warrior. And we've got a beautiful hand-carved statue of Gautama Buddha. Yes. And we've got the chakra banner on the back. And we've got a lot of other things that are just not in the shot. Can't get it all in.
Yeah. Okay. You ready for a countdown?
Let's do it.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, welcome back, friends. Welcome back to the Jersey Alchemist. And you know I'm your host, Dr. John Gerard Gallucci.
And I'm Philip D'Angelo. What's up? I feel like we had an intro before the intro.
Well, it's homegrown.
Yeah,
it's homegrown.
It's homegrown.
Yeah, there's nobody here to say, cut, what are you doing? Yeah. It's the 14th take. Oh, by the way, how many, what do we have now? 53 episodes? 55, something like that? Or, you know, we have a few more videos than episodes because we have the intro, trailer, short, and we have my solo, you know, thing, explanation of the premise and platform.
Wow, you forgot early. Usually it's somewhere in the...
Yeah, that's because I end up there. Oh, God help me. I have to alchemize my own brain.
Yeah, well, we
what the hell was I going to say?
I'm lost.
Good old holy Lord.
Well, let me start talking. Usually when I start talking, then you come back and go, hey, I know what we're talking about. Right. So, yeah, so this is grassroots. It's just two guys sitting there. Sometimes we have a third, hopefully a third and a fourth in the future. And we just talk and you know, we bring it to you real. The way it's supposed to be. Not convoluted, not made up. There's nobody holding signs behind us telling us what to say. We don't have a script saying, well, talk about this because the people will like it. I mean,
that's what I was going to say. I knew you would be skating all around me, and then you'd say, "Here, I know."
I was trying. Wow.
Oh, I forgot again. And sometimes I joke, but it's I did forget again.
No, you did not.
I did. No, homegrown. Homegrown. There's no one here to say, cut, what are you doing? You know, stay on script, right? Stay on script. So there is no script. It's homegrown. So what do we get from that? It's really, really an organic conversation. And we think that that's the best way to go forward. We really do. How many episodes have we done where we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 takes? Was there one time where
maybe once?
Oh, I think one time we had a little techie issue with
yes,
Bones.
Yes,
Bones just seemed to not want to speak that day.
Yeah.
We had to slap him upside the head.
Yeah.
Oh no, don't report us for violence against Bones.
Yeah.
Okay? We love him, he loves us. It's all in fun. But we had a problem. I think it took us 4 or 5 or 6 takes to get the timing right. But otherwise, this is a countdown from Phil, and we start and we obliviate until we're done.
Yeah.
That's it.
We want it to be, and this is what we talked about when we first started.
Yeah.
Like we're in your house and we're sitting at a coffee table. Yeah. And there's a cup of coffee, there's a bottle of water, maybe a little what kind of cake? A Stella D'oro cake, a cookie in the middle, or a couple of cookies, and we're just talking. And that's what it's all about.
An Entenmann's crumb cake.
Yeah, that would be good. So I think today, John, we should spin the wheel. What do you think?
Let's spin that Jersey Boardwalk wheel. I wish I had a wheel that was bigger, and I wish we had the buttons. Remember the buttons? Everybody got a chance to push the button and. Go ahead.
That was impressive.
Oh yeah.
I'm spinning.
Love the wheel. What's it say?
Very interesting.
Oh God.
It's one word.
One word.
One word. The word is
disaster.
Disaster. The word is failure. Wow. Failure. How many? Yeah.
Failure came up.
Yeah.
I should know. I put it in there.
I mean, listen. In one's life, everybody's experienced failure.
Absolutely.
Everybody.
Absolutely. No matter who you are.
Now, there's financial failure. There's relationship failure. Right?
Really?
Yeah, I heard something new. But I mean, failure, at a business. I mean, failure. I think it sucks. Failure sucks, and it could. I don't think, John, because failure is a part of life. I think it's how you react to failure.
Yeah.
I mean, have you had any experiences with failure? Talk about a loaded question.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I would say that I really don't fear anything in this life except for one thing. Failure. I fear failure. I don't fear this guy's failure or the failure of some establishment. I don't fear it. But deep down inside, if you peel the layers of my onion, the core of the core, I have spent a lifetime being silently terrorized and in fear of failure. And I just saw a video where Mike Tyson was interviewed, and he admitted that there were times before he stepped into the ring for a fight that he was terrified. And the interviewer said, "What?" And he says, "Oh yeah." He says, "Because someone's trying to beat your face in." Think, right?
Yeah.
Someone wants to knock your head off. Right.
Well, my point, John, you didn't let that fear of failure paralyze you, though. You didn't let it stop you from doing anything. You accepted. It's almost like accepting a challenge.
Yeah.
Right? So, well, I don't know. I'm not really good at this.
Yeah.
So I won't do it.
I think when people allow the fear of failure to run their lives or to thwart their progress, then they're people that are living by default, and I was never that guy. So maybe, everything happens for a reason. And I saw a lot of the old timers in my family, like people that were in their 80s and 90s when I was a kid. And I used to hear them, you know, at the dinner table as they were cracking nuts with a nutcracker and drinking espresso and coffee and whatnot after the dinner was done, talking about, reminiscing about stories that all seemed to be based around failure. I remember when Uncle Sonny's business failed, you know, and I remember when my cousin Tony invested in land in Hawaii, and he was taken for everything he had because it was a scam. Okay, those things happen, but it served the old timers to kind of hunker down, and no one ever wanted to take the chance to stick their fucking heads out of the door. And that's the way they were. They were mostly my mother's side of the family. It's kind of weird. My father's side of the family, I think they would have just been laughing hysterically. They would have kicked the door down and just went like a bunch of animals to where they thought they wanted to go. Completely different people. Different people. My mother's side, half were Sicilian and half were, I think, Abruzzese. And my father's side were all Napolitans from around Naples, and they were like a barrel. My father's side were a barrel of monkeys. If the food and the wine was good, the place could be burning. They were laughing. They were laughing about it. My mother's side was always like, you know, watch out for that one. I don't like the way he looks at you. That kind of stuff.
I think, John, it depends. Like, don't forget that generation too. A lot of them were born in the Depression, and they really. So that fear of survival was there, and some of them never shook it. Right. You know, I mean, my parents, they came from nothing, like everybody else's parents back then came from nothing, and they went so far. But you know, we used to nudge my parents a little bit. Let's do this. Let's try that. And it was like, oh no. I don't know if it was a fear of failure or a fear of the unknown, but they only went so far. And it just seems like this generation, us, like, you know, we kind of like have no fear. You know, if we get knocked down, I mean, hey, all right, I got knocked down. Hopefully, I'm going to get back up. Right. You know, we're going to keep moving. Failure, I think, is just part of life. You know.
The chairman of the Department of Surgery, where I trained as a surgery resident, had a saying, a motto that he lived by, and he would look at us. Now, this is a man who would take a surgery resident that has killed themselves for 3 years out of a 6-year program and just point his finger at them and say, I'll see you in my office at 2 o'clock. Short little guy, scary little guy, used to take his glasses off, put it in his pocket when he was going to get serious. And he didn't do it all the time, but he seemed to love to wield the power of firing a surgery resident in their 2nd or 3rd year. I saw him do it, and it scared the fucking shit out of the rest of us. And he used to take his glasses off for effect, stick it in his pocket, and he'd say, ladies and gentlemen, there's no greater motivating force in humanity than sheer terror. So he used to terrorize the fuck out of us. He did it silently. And all he had to do was chop off a head every couple of years, and everybody knew it. So the surgery residency program that I came out of, although I loved just about everybody that was there, not everyone. There were a couple of real fucking card-carrying, fucking certified psychopaths that were training us. But it was a pyramid program. And if you don't know what a pyramid program is, it has nothing to do with my Shungite pyramid. Pyramid means, in our case, you took 5 first-year residents, interns. And 3 of those were preliminaries, which meant they only were there for 1 year. They knew it because then they were going to move on to ear, nose, and throat, urology, this, that, the other thing. But the two that were categorical interns that intended to finish the 6-year program, sometimes they would get fired and they'd have to pull somebody in. So they would start with a lot and end with a little. And it was terrifying. It was terrifying. You couldn't really trust anybody that you were training with. And I saw a lot of times that human behavior that reminded me always of what the Russian generals and the Nazi generals in the World War II era. I know that this happened because I read stories about it where, God forbid, Stalin looked at you with a look on his face. As a matter of fact, Stalin probably didn't even have to look at you with a look on his face, or Adolf Hitler, except you wanted the light to shine on anybody other than you. God forbid, because they had a pyramid program too, except when you got fired, you ended up on the dead body pile in the back of the State House, as opposed to now you're looking for another job and you're embarrassed and you don't know what to tell your parents or your grandmother. Yeah, oh yeah, I was going to be a surgeon, Grandma, but that little rat-faced bastard fired me.
Interesting.
So yeah, I mean,
John, so
fear of failure.
So John, let's talk about, you brought up your work.
Yeah.
I mean, you were one of the best pediatric surgeons to ever, pick up a scalpel in New Jersey. Your book has some amazing stories. So what's your mindset? I'm going to compare you to a major league athlete. They can't go into a basketball, football, hockey, baseball game thinking I'm going to fail.
Correct.
That fear of failure gave them, like, I'm going to give 100%. Now, your line of work, where human life is at stake, I don't think there's...
A baby's life or a child's life.
That's right. Yeah. I don't think there's any higher stake than that. I mean, you could never have had I'm going to fail attitude. You had to go in with, I'm going to win every time attitude. Am I right? Or
I said it before in a previous episode, I'm kind of a man of extremes. So I like Vermont or Montreal in the winter, and I like Florida in the summer. But yeah, that's me. So I'm kind of a guy of extremes, and I throw myself into this world of medicine and surgery, and then I go all the way to what I believe is the pinnacle, which is the hardest surgical subspecialty to get a training spot in, which is pediatric surgery, which means you're going to come out fully trained, operating on preemies, little tiny preemies like this, in the NICU, the NICU, neonatal ICU, all the way up to 300 and plus pound 17-year-olds. And every once in a while, the universe would hand you a case that you thought was going to just be another chip shot. And 2.5 hours into a case that should have taken you an hour, you're sweating it out. And you're really back on your heels. And it's the cases that really, the night before the case, if you really know, you'd be thinking about those preemie hernias on a male preemie in the NICU. They could be some of the most difficult cases ever on the planet, because you're dealing with tissue in a hernia sac that is, pediatric surgeons like to say it's tantamount to wet toilet paper. It falls apart in your hands, and you're supposed to make it work and put it all together and have that hernia never come back. To me, that was a challenge so much so that at times I was completely terrorized, quietly, in my skin. And then, the kids with the big tumors that are wrapped around the aorta and the vena cava, and it's in the renal vein going across to the vena cava and up toward the heart. Those were really terrifying cases, really. And you know what? I did prayer lightings and meditations, and I couldn't sleep for much of the night before. And when that case was over, You know where I would go? I used to go before the case to the chapel in the hospital, and after the case, when I got that kid to the ICU and talked to their parents and tucked it all away, it was Jesus, Joseph, and Mary. And I would go to the chapel and throw myself into the first row and burst into tears because it was such a release of stress and anxiety and psycho-emotional energy. And there's another case that I write about in my book where I had a 500-gram baby whose carina, which is it's the bifurcation, the takeoff of the right main stem bronchus and the left main stem bronchus, and it had been torn, like blown out. Baby was going to die. I don't think there are many pediatric surgeons anywhere who could say, oh, I've done many of those, because it just generally doesn't happen. And I went into that case with lots of trepidation, lots of prayer and meditation having come from me. And before I started that case, and we operated in the NICU because the baby was too unstable to bring all the way down to the OR, I stuck a brand new stick of gum in my mouth. The case, I had no idea what I was going to find. I had no real idea what was going to happen or where I was going. All I knew was that if I didn't operate and fix the problem, there was a 100% chance of the baby dying. Get the black plastic bag. And I told the director of the NICU, well, if I am able to fix this, maybe the baby's got a 10% chance of living because of other things like bacterial sepsis and fungal sepsis. NICU preemie babies are susceptible to becoming overwhelmed with fungemia, and you can't figure out the source because your blood cultures are negative and they're looking for bacteria and it's fungus, and then they die. It's a well-known entity. So the case ended up, all I can say is I was in the spirit when I was operating because everything around me was a blank. That hospital could have been burning down and I would not have been aware. And all I know is that I was psycho-emotionally just sweating. Yes, I did have a heater right over my head. Pediatric surgeons know all about that. And the scrub techs and the nurses that work with ped surgeons know how it's over 100 degrees when you're operating. But it only took me 45 minutes to start and finish that operation. And as a added note, the baby survived. And like 3 months later, the baby went home with the family, which was a friggin' miracle. But the point here is that the energy it took from me, the psychic energy, the healing energy, the suprahuman, supranormal energy that was being fed into me because the whole episode was a channeling of healing, it completely disintegrated the brand new stick of gum that I had in my mouth. Ask me if in all of my days, and I was a gum chewer, if I ever had a stick of gum disintegrate in my mouth. What was left in my mouth was like a teaspoonful of sand. Sand. I literally had to go to the sink and wash it out, spit it out and wash it out of my mouth. That's just a point to prove that when there's supernatural energy at hand, supernatural things happen. And supernatural just means really very, very out of the ordinary. Right. So was I afraid of failure? Sure I was. Sure I was. But you know, in the cases where you got about a 90% chance of the baby dying anyway, even if the operation's successful, it's almost kind of like a relief. Like, all right, you know, God forbid, a really bad trauma case where somebody comes in and their liver is dog meat and their spleen is shot and their bowels are burst and, you know, they're really foobar, right? The pressure's on, but the pressure's off. Because not many people are going to save that person. Not many people. It's the big ugly tumor. that you're taking to the OR and the kid's perfectly stable. Kid's hugging its mom and dad. Those are the cases that scare the fuck out of you, or at least they did to me. And what effect did it have on me? The effect it had on me as we proceeded with the case is that it made my energy and my heart and my mind and my body and my soul, it made it sharper than the scalpel I was using to open that kid's belly. At the end of the case, I would collapse in the chapel. And I literally sometimes couldn't get up for a half an hour, hoping that nobody would come in seeing me lying on the first row in the pews. That's, you know, to me, that's all tied into failure. Fear and failure go hand in hand. That's a long-winded way of...
What's that Mike Tyson quote that Customato told him? Fear is like fire, okay? It could cook your food or burn your house down. You know, it's all dependent on what you do with it. So it's like the same thing with failure or fear of failure. It's all depend.
Yeah.
Some people would break and not even take a case like that. Maybe say, "Oh no, I don't think it's worth my time," or it's just the odds are against me, or whatever, and they're just going to back off. So I mean, it takes courage to face failure, stare it down, and say, "Okay, maybe I'm going to fail, but you know what? I'm going to give it 100%."
So is that a little phrase, catchphrase, like FOMO, fear of missing out? You've heard of that, FOMO?
No.
Well, maybe that's a cryptocurrency thing, FOMO. Everybody says, oh, if you don't buy, you worry, you fear that if you didn't buy it when it was, a penny a coin, and now it's $100 a coin, oh, how stupid. So they have FOMO. It's fear of missing out. I wonder if anybody uses FOFO. FOFO is fear of failure.
Interesting. But yeah. But either way, I mean, what makes certain people special? I mean, to do what you did for a living takes a special person. I'm convinced. To win 8 Super Bowls takes a special person.
Was it 8?
I don't know. How many of
7,
Brady? 7, 8? Yeah, Brady. Whatever he won. I mean, it takes a special person to win 300 games. Because in any sport or in life, you're going to get knocked down. You're going to fail. Something's not going to go your way.
Yeah,
you know.
Of course.
And how do you react? Like it's always amazing to me, the success stories in business. People think they're overnight successes, right, John?
Oh yeah.
But yet they've had 3, 4 failed businesses, and all of a sudden, they take what they learned, instead of getting sad and scared and saying, you know what, I'm not going to do it anymore because I failed. They take it as a learning experience. And they apply it to their next venture, and guess what? They're extremely successful, and that's what makes people like that very special.
Yeah. I think that the people who end up ultimately, again, I love that expression, when you peel the layers of their onion, the people that find themselves driven beyond the concept of failure, right? The greatest example that I know of, I'm sure there's many, 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 many great examples. George Washington would be one of them, and maybe General MacArthur would be another, and Patton would be another, maybe, I don't know. But for me, it's John Denver. Not only am I a fan of John Denver and his life and his persona and his unbelievable, beautiful voice and his crazy ability to play the guitar and a piano and a banjo, and when he was, I can't remember the name of the singing group he was with, but he was with one of those kind of, not a barbershop quartet, but like a men's, I think, 4-part singing group. He was spectacular. And then he decided he was going to start writing and singing and playing on his own. So he had an agent. Now, if I could dance and sing and play, however, and I actually got an agent, and we petitioned the major recording studios, and I was rejected, kind of like getting the red buzzer on American Idol, right? Everybody, and then you have to kind of walk off with your tail between your legs. a lot of people would say, okay, that's it, I'm a failure, and end of story. Of all people on the planet, John Denver was rejected. He failed to move the big shits in the music industry. The sacrosanct kings and queens of the music industry, the ones who know better than anyone. Don't you love the weed whacker? Right?
It's Jersey.
Guess how many times he was rejected, that he failed? 17 times in a row. 17 times in a row. And today, if you look up how many people are at the top of the recording list, what's today? Is it Wednesday?
Thursday.
It's Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why.
Should we throw a
No,
bottle of water down?
No,
Anyway,
no,
but
no.
the point is, it's 17 times in a row, and he persisted. And today, now John Denver passed in a plane crash, in a single plane crash. He was the pilot. He was a very good pilot. In 1997, off the coast of, I think, Monterey. And today, he's still number 4 on the all-time bestseller list for recorded music. I think it's Elvis, Michael Jackson, Frank Sinatra, and John Denver. Can you imagine if John Denver were still alive? Can you imagine? The king would have his ankles being nipped at. Yeah.
John, let's talk about failure. A lot of people like to bring up, for instance, Thomas Edison, right? Inventor of the light bulb.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think he got that on the first try?
No, as a matter of, yeah.
How many times did Thomas Edison have to try?
Well, it was impressed upon us when I was in the Cub Scouts. We went on a trip to the Edison studios, and these were the original places. His original roll-top desk. He had an old oak roll-top desk that they said he would work all through the night with an oil lamp, and he would sleep like 15 minutes and keep going. He never actually went home to get in bed to sleep for 8 hours. And they said he was completely driven. And I think that when you feel, which is what I was alluding to when I got into the John Denver thing, the people that inherently feel that drive, that purpose, like they've got tunnel vision to the finish line, they don't have fear. They don't have fear. It's the rest of us that maybe somehow or another psychically know, we're going to try this, but maybe it's not going anywhere. These are the people who might kind of, instead of diving into the water, from the 3-meter board, or from the high dive platform, maybe they get by the ladder and they stick their feet in and they go, it's cold, I don't know. Because the slower you get in, the more painful it is to get into cold water. But Thomas Edison, I don't think he had any fear of failing.
No.
Even though that son of a gun was the mortal adversary of one Nikola Tesla.
Well, that's another story. Absolutely. Yeah. John, there's a 3-minute and 10-second scene from Rocky Balboa, the last Rocky movie, I believe. And he gives a speech to his son about it's not how hard you hit, it's how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. And that sums it up pretty much.
That's what this life is all about, right?
Everybody's going to take your hits. It's what you do once you get hit. Can you still move forward?
But isn't that at the very, very essence, the very core of what it means to be human in this hard, existential, physical third dimension?
Absolutely.
Where we are solid matter, surrounded by solid matter, even though the string theorist and the modern physicists would say there's no such thing as truly solid matter. That's all good, that's okay. But this construct serves a purpose, as opposed to the spirit world, which is where we all come from. Spirits don't fear a howitzer. They don't fear a machine gun, or a knife, or a sword, or a slingshot with a ball bearing in it. They don't fear any of that because they're just of a different dimension. It doesn't affect them. but affects us here, and it's meant to affect us, to make us fearful, to give this kind of ugly, potentially dark world teeth. It gives it teeth, right? I mean, look, who would be afraid of a lion if the lion didn't have claws or teeth?
Oh, it'd be a big cat.
Yeah, it would be a big cat, and it could scare you with its roar, but if you knew that it was going to gum you, you know, and roll on you, and maybe that's all it would be looking to do anyway, because what would a lion cub be if it wasn't all about learning how to use its weapons? What would it, right?
Absolutely.
So, you know, I just...
John, if you had to alchemize this episode, how would you do it?
I would say, when you realize, if you take it back to the core of the core, peel the layers of your onion, or anybody that you choose to focus on, and teach your children well. Think about what you want, and fear not. Do not fear what you think is failure, because what you think is failure, or what your friend in class would have you think is failure, might actually be the grand gateway, the doorway to the greatest success in the world. So failure is nothing but an integral part of what it means to be a human being on this planet, and everybody fails. Now, would you fear having ears? Ears. Would you fear that? I don't know why you would, because ears bring you pleasurable sounds, and ears bring you sounds of catastrophe, and everybody has ears, right? Think about it that way. Well, everybody experiences failure. Don't be afraid of what everybody has, because if you allow that to make you so fearful, you'll be stuck dead in your tracks, and you're going to live your life by default. And you know what, people? I've said it again, and I'm going to say it all the time here on the Jersey Alchemist. There is a creator. There is a creator, and you're being watched by spirit guides. You're being watched by your higher self. And you know something? If you're going to just shrink down and you want to be a little clod on a dirt pile, there's no purpose to your life. You got to grow. You got to take chances. You got to take reasonable chances where you've cognated over it and you've prayed on it and you've meditated about it, because fear is contracting. And you think failure is going to throw you into fear, and you think it's going to be the end of you. But no, very often, failure is just the gateway to success. When case in point, and then we'll wrap it up, after college I went to dental school because I used to have dreams about being a dentist. I don't know where those dreams came from. I think that they were parts of my destiny bleeding through into my dream state. And when I got to dental school, the purpose of dental school was not to become a dentist for me. Everybody needs a good dentist. I'm not ranking on the world of dentistry. No. But I met the woman that turned out to be my wife, who's the mother of my 3 kids. Did I fear? Well, we feared failure in dental school because we had 11 courses at one time, but dental school wasn't where I was meant to stay and graduate from. So me, my roommate, and the girl that became my wife, we all left. We quit dental school and we went to medical school. So there are those who would look from the outside and say, oh, that Gallucci boy, didn't he say he was going to dental school? Well, guess what? He failed. I didn't fail out. I electively left. I had left with my pants on fire saying, sayonara. And but there are those who, I've heard it said, oh, he failed. No, I didn't fail. I just used dental school as a purposeful stepping stone to get to my destiny. So don't be afraid of failure, because failure very often is just the first rung, the second rung on the ladder up to your greatest success. That's it.
Well said, John, as usual. Thank you very much. People, thank you for watching us on the Jersey episode, Jersey Alchemist, this episode. If you like what we're doing, press like, subscribe. Till next time.
Yep,
Peace.
subscribe, people. It helps YouTube help us.
Amen.